The council chamber stretched wide and tall, filled with representatives from 300 worlds across the galaxy. And among them sat Ambassador Kevin Morris from Earth. Quiet in his designated seat, as he had been for 100 years now, Kevin watched the other ambassadors argue about trade routes and territorial disputes, their voices rising and falling in the ancient hall, while humanity's voice remained absent from every debate and every vote and every decision that shaped galactic civilization. Chairman Velker of the Kreth Empire stood at the central podium, his reptilian features twisted in what might have been satisfaction or contempt. Kevin had never quite learned to tell the difference. "We come now to the matter of the Outer Rim colonies," Velker announced, his voice carrying easily through the chamber. "Several minor species have requested protection from pirate raids, but as always, the cost of deploying peacekeeping forces must be distributed fairly among member nations." The debate began immediately, with wealthier species arguing about their share of the burden while poorer worlds pleaded for consideration. And through it all, Kevin sat silent because that was what humanity had done for a century: sit and watch and say nothing at all. A young ambassador from the Telvic Confederation leaned toward her mentor and whispered loudly enough for Kevin to hear. "Why does the human even attend these sessions if his people never participate in anything?" The older Telvic ambassador chuckled and replied, "Earth learned its place long ago, young one. They are observers now. Nothing more, a cautionary tale about what happens when a species reaches for the stars before they are truly ready." Kevin showed no reaction to their words because he had heard similar comments 10,000 times before. Heard humanity called cowards and fools and weaklings by species who thought they understood what silence meant. His mind drifted back 50 years to the day humanity made its choice, when President Daniel Carter stood before the council and listened to their ultimatum: surrender all weapons of war and accept status as a protected junior species or face immediate sanctions and complete isolation from galactic trade and technology. The council had been so certain of Earth's response, so confident that a young species would choose survival over pride. Daniel Carter had stood at this very podium and said 3 words that still echoed in Kevin's memory: "We accept fully." The council had celebrated their victory while Earth went home in shame, and the galaxy moved on to other matters because humanity had been properly dealt with and properly tamed. What the council never knew was that Daniel Carter had said 4 more words after the session ended. 4 words spoken only to the small group of human officials who understood what was really happening. "Now we build in secret." Kevin pulled himself back to the present as Velker continued droning about protection costs and military deployments. And he wondered if any of these proud species had ever considered that silence could be a strategy rather than a surrender. The session dragged on for hours, as it always did, with endless debates about matters that never seemed to reach resolution. And Kevin took notes on his small device, not because Earth cared about council politics, but because appearances had to be maintained. Finally, as the session neared its end, an aide rushed into the chamber with a message crystal that glowed. Urgent. Red Velker took the crystal and inserted it into the reader at his podium, his expression shifting from annoyance to interest as he absorbed the information. "Members of the council," Velker announced, his voice cutting through the murmuring conversations. "I have just received grave news from our deep space monitoring network. The Ravagers have struck again." The chamber fell silent in a way that political debates never achieved because the Ravagers were not a matter of economics or territory, but of pure survival. "They have destroyed the colony world of Bektash." Velker continued, "All 7 million inhabitants are gone, consumed by the Ravager fleet in less than 2 days. This marks the 12th world they have eliminated in the past year." Ambassador Quirrell from the Andine Federation stood quickly and said, "We must take action now before they grow bolder." Every world they consume makes them stronger. Action requires sacrifice. Velker replied smoothly. The Ravagers are too powerful to face directly without suffering tremendous losses. The Council must decide which worlds we can afford to lose, while we build our strength. Kevin felt something cold settle in his stomach, because he recognized the tone in Velker's voice. This was not about strategy, but about calculation and acceptable losses. Perhaps, Velker said slowly, looking around the chamber, we should consider which member worlds would be least damaging to lose worlds with smaller populations or less strategic value to the greater galactic community. You mean worlds that cannot defend themselves? Quirrell said quietly. I mean worlds where the cost of defense exceeds the benefit, Velker corrected. For example, Earth, a minor world on the outer edge of colonized space, protected by no military forces, contributing little to Council affairs if the Ravagers were drawn to such a target. It would buy us valuable time to prepare. The chamber erupted in mixed reactions, some ambassadors nodding thoughtfully while others looked uncomfortable. And Kevin felt the eyes of the entire Council turn toward him. This was the moment that Earth had prepared for. Across 100 years of silence and planning, Kevin stood slowly, feeling the weight of every gaze upon him as he rose from his seat. For the first time in decades, the chamber fell silent again because no one had heard the human ambassador speak in living memory. 3 generations of Council members had come and gone, while Kevin sat mute. Chairman Velker, Kevin said clearly, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. Humanity thanks the Council for considering our world as a potential sacrifice for the greater good. Velker looked surprised but pleased, probably thinking the human was about to beg for protection or offer Earth's resources in exchange for defense. However, Kevin continued, I must respectfully inform this Council that humanity declines your generous offer. Confused muttering rippled through the chamber because the statement made no sense. Earth had no military and no allies and no way to refuse anything the Council decided. Velker's expression shifted to something like pity, mixed with contempt, and he said, Ambassador Morris, perhaps you do not understand. This is not a negotiation, but a strategic decision for the survival of galactic civilization. Earth will serve the greater good, whether your people agree or not. Kevin smiled then, a small expression that held no warmth but carried something the Council had never seen from humanity. Before absolute confidence, I understand perfectly. Chairman Velker, Kevin said, which is why I am withdrawing from this session to return to Earth immediately. My government will want to prepare for what comes next. Prepare? Velker laughed, a harsh sound that other Council members echoed. Prepare with what, Ambassador? Your people have no ships of war, no weapons, no means of defense. You will simply die when the Ravagers come, and the galaxy will have time to ready itself properly. Kevin walked toward the chamber exit while the Council laughed behind him. And as he reached the doorway, he turned back one final time. You are correct that Earth has been silent for 100 years, Kevin said to the assembled representatives of 300 worlds. But I suggest you consider why a species would choose silence, and what they might have been doing while you assumed they were doing nothing at all. He left the chamber before anyone could respond, moving quickly through the station corridors toward his personal ship. As he walked, Kevin activated his emergency transmitter and sent a coded message that traveled faster than light across the vast distance to Earth. 3 words that would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. Protocol Awakening authorized. Behind him in the Council chamber, the laughter was already dying as some of the wiser ambassadors began to wonder what the human might have meant and far away in the outer reaches of the solar system, beyond Pluto's orbit where no one had thought to look. Something ancient began to wake from a very long and very patient sleep. Admiral Lisa Hayes floated in zero gravity near the observation window of the CNS Defiance, watching as thousands of lights began flickering to life across the massive hidden shipyard that surrounded her. The asteroid field beyond Pluto had concealed humanity's greatest secret for 50 years. And now that secret was waking up with the low hum of fusion reactors spinning to full power for the first time since they were built. All sections reporting ready status. Admiral, Commander Jake Sullivan said from his position at the tactical station, his voice carrying both excitement and nervousness in equal measure. We have 1,700 warships coming online across the network. Every ship that we built and hid is responding to the activation codes. Lisa turned away from the window and pulled herself toward the command chair, grabbing handholds along the way because artificial gravity would not engage until the ship was fully operational. She had spent 30 years preparing for this moment, training in secret facilities on the far side of the moon, learning to command ships that no one outside a select group even knew existed. How long until we can begin deployment? Lisa asked. Engineering estimates 48 hours until the first battle group can leave the shipyard. Jake replied, the ships have been in cold storage for decades. We need to run full system checks before we risk faster-than-light jumps. Lisa nodded and pulled up the tactical display on her personal screen, studying the map of known space and the red markers that showed where the Ravagers had been striking 12 worlds gone already. And now the Galactic Council wanted to add Earth to that list. She remembered the day she had met General Ryan Blake, the man who had designed this entire strategy back when she was just a junior officer. Fresh out of the academy, Ryan had been old even then, but his eyes had burned with fierce intelligence as he explained his vision for humanity's future. The Council thinks they won the negotiation, Ryan had told her in a secure briefing room deep beneath Colorado. They think we surrendered our strength and accepted our place as a minor species. But they made one critical mistake in their demands. What mistake? Lisa had asked. They told us to disarm. Ryan had smiled. But they never verified that we actually did. They assumed our compliance because they could not imagine anyone would dare to deceive the Council. And so humanity had built its fleet in secret, using automated factories hidden in asteroid fields and construction facilities on the dark side of the moon, creating warships that no other species had ever seen. The ships were not beautiful like the Elegant, vessels that other species flew through space. The Defiance and her sisters were brutal machines designed for one purpose only, which was to destroy anything that threatened Earth. Admiral, Jake said quietly. Permission to speak freely? Always, Commander. Do you think this will work? Jake asked. Even with 1,700 ships, we are facing species that have been building their militaries for thousands of years. We are children playing at war compared to them. Lisa studied her tactical officer's face and saw the doubt that she knew many of the crew must be feeling. Jake, let me tell you what makes us different from every other species in the Council. Lisa said, when the Kreth Empire builds a warship, they design it to look impressive in parades and demonstrations. When the Telvic Confederation builds a fleet, they create beautiful ships that show their artistic culture. When the Andine Federation designs weapons, they make sure those weapons follow all their philosophical principles about proportional response. And when humans build warships? Jake asked. We build them to win, Lisa replied simply. Every system on this ship has 3 backup options. Every weapon can operate independently. If the main computer fails, every crew member is trained for the worst-case scenario because that is how Earth does everything. She pulled up a comparison chart showing the Defiance next to a standard Kreth battlecruiser. Look at this, Lisa said. The Kreth ship is twice our size and looks far more impressive, but 70% of its internal volume is dedicated to luxury. Quarters for officers and ceremonial spaces for Diplomatic functions, it carries enough firepower to defeat most enemies, but only enough because they never imagined facing an enemy that wanted total victory rather than just a favorable peace. Jake studied the comparison and then looked at the specifications for the Defiance. "We have no luxury quarters," he said slowly. "No ceremonial spaces, no diplomatic facilities, just weapons and armor and power systems." "Exactly," Lisa confirmed. When Ryan Blake designed these ships, he asked one question. What would we build if we knew we only got one chance to save Earth? The answer is this fleet. The ship shuddered slightly as the main fusion reactor reached full power, and gravity began pulling them gently toward the deck. Lisa settled into her command chair properly now and opened the secure communication channel to Fleet Command back on Earth. President Nicole Campbell appeared on the screen. "Looking tired but determined, Admiral Hayes," the president said. "I assume you received Ambassador Morris's activation code." "Yes, Madam President," Lisa replied. "The fleet is waking up. We will be ready to deploy within 2 days. The Council has made its decision about Earth," Nicole said quietly. "They are going to offer us to the Ravagers, as Bay Chairman Velker actually believes we will simply accept our fate because we have no way to fight back." "What are your orders, ma'am?" "The Ravagers are moving toward a world called Peloria," Nicole explained. 4 billion plant-based life forms who have never hurt anyone and have no military at all intelligence. Suggest the Ravagers will hit them in 72 hours. Lisa felt her jaw tighten because she knew what was coming next. "You want us to defend Peloria," she said. "I want you to show the galaxy who we really are." Nicole replied, "For 50 years, we have been silent and careful and patient. But if we are going to reveal ourselves, we should do it by protecting someone who cannot protect themselves. The Ravagers will have hundreds of ships at Peloria." Jake interjected. "We might only be able to field 30 or 40 vessels in time. Then make those 30 or 40 ships count." "Admiral," Nicole said firmly, "show them that humanity does not need thousands of ships to make a difference. Show them that when we finally stop being silent, the galaxy better listen." The transmission ended, and Lisa sat in her command chair, feeling the weight of 50 years of preparation settling on her shoulders. "Commander Sullivan," she said formally, "begin organizing a fast response battle group. I want our 30 best ships ready to jump in 48 hours instead of 72. That does not give us much time for system checks," Jake warned. "Then we will check systems while we fly," Lisa replied. "The people of Peloria do not have time for us to be cautious. Over the next 2 days, the hidden shipyard became a storm of activity as crews raced to wake there. Vessels from decades of cold storage engineers worked around the clock to bring weapon systems online while supply officers loaded ammunition and provisions. For extended combat operations, Lisa moved through the Defiance constantly, checking every department and talking to every crew member because she needed them to understand what they were about to do in the ship's main hangar bay. She found Marine Commander Alex Torres drilling his troops in boarding combat techniques. "Admiral on deck," someone shouted. But Lisa waved them to continue. "As you were," she said. Watching the Marines practice close-quarters combat with weapons that looked primitive compared to the energy weapons that other species used, kinetic rifles and blades, Alex said, noticing her attention. "Every other species in the galaxy uses directed energy weapons that look impressive but can be deflected by shields. We use bullets and knives that do not care about shields. You think it will work?" Lisa asked. "I think the Ravagers have never fought anyone like us," Alex grinned. "They are going to board our ships expecting typical galactic combat instead. They will find Marines with shotguns and bad attitudes." Lisa smiled despite the tension she felt because Alex was right. Humanity had spent 50 years studying how everyone else fought wars. and they had designed their tactics to exploit every weakness in galactic military doctrine on the morning of the third day. The Defiance and 37 other warships detached from the hidden shipyard and formed up in open space. Lisa stood on her bridge and looked at the tactical display showing her small fleet 38 ships against whatever the Ravagers brought to Peloria. All ships report ready for faster-than-light jump, Jake announced. Then let's go save some people who have never met us, Lisa commanded. All ships, jump now. The stars stretched and twisted as the human fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind the secret that had protected them for 50 years. Earth was no longer hiding. Earth was no longer silent, and the galaxy was about to learn what humanity had been building while everyone assumed they were doing nothing at all. The Ravager fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Peloria system. 300 warships that glowed dark red against the black of space like drops of blood floating in water. Warlord Kresh stood on the command deck of his flagship, studying the scans of the peaceful world that would soon feed his people's endless hunger. The population is already fleeing, his tactical officer reported. Civilian transport ships are launching from the surface carrying refugees. They know we are here. Of course they know, Kresh growled. The Council always warns their protected species before we arrive, giving them false hope that someone might come to save them, but no one ever does. He had led 17 such raids in his career, and they all followed the same pattern. The weak species would run while the Council debated what to do. And by the time anyone decided on action, the world would already be consumed and the Ravagers would be gone. Begin the approach, Kresh ordered. I want landing forces ready to deploy once we achieve orbital position. This world will be stripped within 48 hours. The Ravager fleet began moving toward Peloria in a standard attack formation, their weapons charging and their crews eager for the feast that awaited them. Then, the sensors started screaming warnings. Warlord, the tactical officer said with confusion in his voice. New contact emerging from faster-than-light travel directly between us and the planet's single vessel. Unknown configuration. Kresh looked at the main display and saw a ship materialize from nothing, positioning itself deliberately in the path of his entire fleet. The vessel was strange and blocky, nothing like the elegant ships that galactic species preferred. It looked more like a mobile weapons platform than a proper starship. What species? Kresh demanded, checking database now. The tactical officer worked his controls frantically. Warlord, the configuration matches no military vessel in any Council fleet weight. I am getting an identification signal. The ship is broadcasting as CN's Defiance. Registry Earth. Kresh felt a moment of confusion because Earth was the species the Council called cowards. The species that had no military and no weapons. This must be some kind of civilian vessel, Kresh decided. A foolish gesture by a weak species. Ignore it and continue our approach. His tactical officer hesitated and then said, Warlord, the vessel is not moving. It is maintaining position directly in our path. Then destroy it. Kresh snarled. One ship cannot stop 300 blasted aside and let us proceed. The Ravager fleet opened fire with energy weapons that had cracked the shields of Council battleships. Brilliant beams of destruction that converged on the human vessel from a dozen directions. The Defiance's shields flared bright blue as they absorbed the incoming fire. And then something unexpected happened. The human ship accelerated directly toward the Ravager formation instead of retreating. Warlord, the Earth vessel is charging our lines, the tactical officer reported with disbelief. It is not even attempting evasive maneuvers. Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the Defiance as Ravager weapons hammered against her shields, watching the tactical display show her single ship diving into the heart of an enemy fleet, shields holding at 87%. Jake Sullivan reported calmly. Their weapons are exactly as powerful as our intelligence predicted. Our shields can take sustained fire for at least 20 minutes before we need to worry. How long until we reach optimal firing range? Lisa asked. 15 seconds. Jake replied. Lisa opened the fleet-wide channel to the 37 other human ships waiting in faster-than-light space just outside the system. All ships. This is Defiance, she said clearly. Target verification complete. The Ravagers fight exactly as we expected. Execute attack plan beta on my mark. She watched the countdown timer reach 0 as the Defiance plunged into the middle of the Ravager formation. All weapons? Open fire, Lisa commanded. Show them what Earth builds. The Defiance's weapon ports opened and unleashed a storm of kinetic projectiles and missile salvos that tore through the Ravager ships at close range, like the energy weapons that most species used. Human kinetic rounds did not dissipate over distance and could not be deflected by standard shields. They simply punched through whatever was in their way. 3 Ravager ships exploded in the first 5 seconds as railgun rounds the size of cars smashed through their hulls. They cannot defend against kinetic weapons, Jake reported with satisfaction. Their shields are designed to deflect energy. They have no protection against solid projectiles. Kresh watched in horror as the single human ship carved a path of destruction through his fleet, moving with a purpose and precision that spoke of extensive training and planning. All ships concentrate fire on that vessel, he screamed. Bring every weapon to bear. I want it destroyed now. But as 200 Ravager ships turned to focus on the Defiance, 37 more human vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel all around the Ravager formation. Multiple new contacts, Kresh's tactical officer reported, his voice rising in panic. 37 additional Earthships materializing throughout our formation, Warlord. We are surrounded. Impossible, Kresh said. The database says Earth has no military. This cannot be happening. The human fleet began its attack with coordinated precision that Kresh had only seen in the most elite council forces. Each human ship engaged multiple Ravager vessels simultaneously, their weapon systems firing in patterns that maximized damage while their shields absorbed return fire with apparent ease. Their shields are too strong, the tactical officer reported. Our energy weapons are not penetrating their defenses, and their kinetic weapons are destroying our ships faster than we can respond. Ravager destroyer exploded off the starboard side as human railgun fire turned it into shrapnel. Then another ship died as missile salvos overwhelmed its point defense systems. Then 3 more vanished in brilliant explosions as the human fleet pressed their attack without mercy or hesitation. Kresh realized with growing dread that he was losing not just the battle but his entire fleet. Boarding parties to the human vessels, he ordered desperately. If we cannot destroy them with weapons, we will take them by force. Ravager boarding craft launched toward the nearest human ships. And for a moment, Kresh felt hope because his warriors were the best in the galaxy at close combat. The first boarding party breached the hull of a human cruiser and entered the ship, expecting to find frightened crew members. With standard energy weapons instead, they found human marines waiting with kinetic rifles and blades, fighting in narrow corridors where the Ravager's size became a disadvantage. The boarding party was wiped out in less than 3 minutes. All boarding parties report heavy casualties, the tactical officer said quietly. The humans fight like demons in close combat. Our warriors cannot match them in confined spaces. Kresh looked at his tactical display and saw that he had already lost more than half his fleet in less than 20 minutes of combat. 20 minutes against a species he had never heard of until today. Retreat, Kresh said, the word tasting like poison in his mouth. All ships break contact and jump to faster than light immediately. We are withdrawing from this system. But Warlord, We have never retreated from. Now, Kresh roared. Before they destroy everything, the surviving Ravager ships broke formation and fled toward the edge of the system, where they could safely engage their faster-than-light drives. The human fleet did not pursue them, but instead maintained position between the fleeing Ravagers and the planet. Peloria. Lisa watched the enemy retreat on her tactical display and felt a mixture of satisfaction and sorrow. Satisfaction that the plan had worked perfectly, and sorrow at the cost of what they had just proven. Damage report. She ordered. Minor hull damage to 6 ships, Jake replied. No casualties. Shields held throughout the engagement, Admiral. We just defeated a Ravager fleet with minimal losses. How many Ravager ships destroyed? Lisa asked. 163 confirmed kills, Jake said with awe in his voice. They lost more than half their fleet. They will remember this. Lisa opened a channel to the fleeing Ravagers and broadcast a simple message. Tell your leaders that Earth will protect those who cannot protect themselves. The next time you come for innocent worlds, we will be waiting. She closed the channel and then opened communications to the Pelorian civilian ships that were still evacuating the planet. This is Admiral Lisa Hayes of the Earth Defense Forces, she said gently. The Ravager fleet has retreated. You are safe now and can return to your homes. For a long moment, there was only silence. And then dozens of responses began flooding in from the Pelorian ships, messages of gratitude and disbelief. Questions about who humanity was and why they had come to help a species they had never met. Lisa listened to them all and felt something warm settle in her chest, because this was why Ryan Blake had built the fleet, not to conquer or dominate, but to protect those who needed protection. Set course for Earth, she told Jake. Our job here is done, but something tells me this is only the beginning. The human fleet formed up and jumped back to faster-than-light travel, leaving behind a grateful population and a Ravager warlord who would never underestimate humanity again. And across the galaxy, news of the battle began to spread as the Pelorians broadcast what had happened, the story of a species called humans, who would save them when no one else would. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos as footage from the Battle of Peloria played on every display screen, showing human warships tearing through the Ravager fleet with devastating efficiency. Ambassador Kevin Morris stood calmly at the human delegation's podium while 300 species shouted questions and accusations at him from every direction. Chairman Velker slammed his ceremonial staff against the floor repeatedly, trying to restore order to the pandemonium. Silence, Velker roared, his voice finally cutting through the noise. We will have order in this chamber, or I will clear the gallery. The shouting died down to angry muttering as the ambassadors reluctantly took their seats. Ambassador Morris, Velker said coldly, you will explain how Earth, a species that agreed to complete disarmament 50 years ago, suddenly possesses a military fleet capable of defeating the Ravagers. Kevin met Velker's gaze without flinching and replied, Chairman, if you review the original agreement, you will find that Earth agreed to your terms. We never specified what those terms actually required us to do. You lied to this council. Velker accused. We accepted your demands, Kevin corrected. You demanded we disarm. We agreed to let you believe we had. You never asked to verify our compliance. And we never volunteered information you did not request. Ambassador Quirrell from the Andine Federation stood and said, semantics aside, Earth has clearly violated the spirit of the agreement. You maintained a military force in secret while pretending to be defenseless. We maintain the ability to defend ourselves and others, Kevin replied, which is precisely what we did at Peloria. We saved 4 billion lives while this council debated whether they were worth saving at all. The Pelorian ambassador rose from her seat, her plant-like features showing deep emotion. Chairman Velker, she said in a voice that trembled. My people were hours from extinction. The council was still debating protection costs while the Ravagers approached our world. Humanity asked for nothing in return, demanded no payment, and simply came to our aid when no one else would. Several other ambassadors from smaller species began voicing their support for Earth's actions while the larger military powers looked increasingly uncomfortable. This is not about gratitude, Velker snapped. This is about trust and the foundation of council authority. If every species maintains secret militaries, the entire system collapses. Perhaps the system deserves to collapse, Kevin said quietly. And the chamber fell silent at his words. Explain yourself. Ambassador, Velker demanded. For 100 years, Earth has watched this council operate, Kevin said, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. We have seen powerful species bully weaker ones, watched as minor worlds were sacrificed for political convenience, and observed how the strong make rules that the weak must follow. You call it galactic civilization, but from where we sit, it looks more like galactic tyranny with better manners. How dare you? Velker began. You dared to offer Earth to the Ravagers as bait. Kevin interrupted. You made that decision without consulting us, without asking our opinion, without considering that we might have our own plans. You treated us like livestock to be traded away for your convenience. The chamber remained silent as Kevin's words hung in the air. So yes, Chairman, we kept secrets from you, Kevin continued. We built a fleet in hiding and trained in silence because we knew the day would come when the Council would decide that Earth was expendable. We chose to be ready for that day rather than trust in your protection. Across the galaxy in Ravager space, a very different council was taking place. Supreme Ravager Thane sat on his throne, while dozens of warlords argued before him about what to do with the human problem. We must destroy them before they become stronger. Warlord Gresh insisted. Every day we wait gives them time to prepare. Gresh lost half his fleet to less than 40 human ships. Another warlord countered. How many ships would we lose if we attacked their home world? As many as necessary. Thane spoke, his voice ending all argument. The galaxy fears us because we have never been defeated. If word spreads that humans made us retreat, other species will think they can resist us too. Warlord Gresh stood from where he had been sitting in disgrace and said, Supreme One, I respectfully suggest we avoid Earth. Their technology is unlike anything we have faced. Their weapons ignore our shields, and their ships are built for total war rather than conquest. You suggest we flee from a single species? Thane asked dangerously. I suggest we choose our battles wisely, Gresh replied. There are easier targets and richer worlds. Why waste our strength on humans when so many other species remain defenseless? Thane rose from his throne and walked toward Gresh with slow, deliberate steps. Because fear is our greatest weapon, Thane said quietly. And if we show fear of humans, we lose that weapon now. We will gather the full armada and we will erase Earth from existence. Every ship we possess, every warrior we command, all of it focused on one goal. How many ships? Gresh asked. 5,000. Thane declared. The largest fleet ever assembled by our people. We will show the galaxy what happens when someone dares to resist the Ravagers. Back on Earth, President Nicole Campbell addressed the entire planet through a broadcast that reached every city and every home. My fellow citizens, she began. By now you have all heard about the Battle of Peloria and the revelation of our hidden fleet. I know many of you feel betrayed that your government kept such an enormous secret for 50 years. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The decision to build that fleet in secret was not made lightly. Nicole continued. 50 years ago, the Galactic Council gave us an ultimatum: disarm completely or face isolation. President Daniel Carter made a choice that day that has protected us ever since. He chose to appear weak while building strength in hiding. Images of the hidden shipyards played across screens worldwide for 5 decades. Thousands of engineers and soldiers and scientists worked in secret to give Earth the ability to defend itself, Nicole said. They sacrificed normal lives and recognition for their work because they believed in a simple truth: peace through strength. Now the Ravagers know we exist. Nicole's expression became grave. And intelligence reports suggest they are gathering their full armada to attack Earth directly. They want to make an example of us, to show the galaxy what happens when someone stands against them. She leaned forward, looking directly into the camera. So I want to be clear about what comes next, Nicole said firmly. Earth will not surrender. Earth will not beg for council protection. Earth will stand and fight because that is what we have been preparing to do for 50 years. Our fleet is ready, she continued. Our defenses are strong, but more importantly, we are not alone. I have received messages from 37 other species offering to send their fleets to help defend Earth species that the Council has ignored and dismissed. Species that saw what we did at Peloria and decided they want to stand with us. Nicole smiled then, a fierce expression full of determination. The Ravagers think 5,000 ships will be enough to destroy us, she said. Let them come. They are about to learn that humans do not calculate victory by counting ships, but by measuring resolve, and Earth's resolve is absolute. The broadcast ended, and across the planet, people looked up at the stars with a mixture of fear and pride. Admiral Lisa Hayes received her new orders while the Defiance underwent repairs. At the hidden shipyard, you want us to intercept them before they reach Earth? She asked President Campbell over the secure channel. Intelligence has identified the route they will use, Nicole explained. There is only one faster-than-light corridor that allows efficient travel from Ravager space to our system. If you position forces there, you can engage them on your terms rather than fighting in orbit around our home. 5,000 ships against 300, Lisa said quietly. Those are impossible odds, which is why you will not be alone, Nicole replied. I told the planet about the Allied fleets, offering to help. What I did not mention is that 70% of those fleets consist of species with minimal military experience. They are volunteering out of gratitude and courage. But they are not warriors. Lisa understood immediately what the president was really saying. Earth would be leading inexperienced allies against an enemy that had conquered 40 systems. When do we leave? Lisa asked. 48 hours, Nicole replied. Give them enough time to prepare. Admiral, teach them everything you can about fighting Ravagers in the time you have, because when that battle begins, their survival depends on your leadership. The transmission ended and Lisa looked out at the fleet of human warships preparing for the fight of their lives. Somewhere out there, 5,000 Ravager ships were gathering for revenge, but Earth was not the same species that had accepted the Council's ultimatum. 50 years ago, Earth had spent 5 decades preparing for this exact moment, and now the galaxy would see what humanity could do when pushed to the edge. The combined fleet gathered at the strategic choke point between Ravager space and Earth's system. 300 human warships, surrounded by 400 vessels from 37 allied species who had never fought together. Before Admiral Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the CNS Defiance, studying the defensive formation her tactical team had designed over the past 48 hours. The allied ships are in position, Commander Jake Sullivan reported. Though I must admit, Admiral, some of them look like they have never been in combat before. That is because most of them have not, Lisa replied, watching the tactical display show the mixed fleet, holding formation around a massive debris field left over from ancient stellar collisions. The plan was simple in concept but brutal in execution. The human fleet would create kill zones, using the debris as cover, while the allied ships provided support fire and rescued damaged vessels. How long until the Ravagers arrive? Lisa asked. Scouts report their armada is 2 hours out, Jake said. 5,000 ships moving in standard attack formation. Supreme Ravager Thane is leading them personally. Lisa opened a fleet-wide channel to address all 700 ships under her command. All vessels. This is Admiral Hayes, she said clearly. In 2 hours we will face an enemy that has never been defeated. They come with overwhelming numbers because they believe numbers are all that matters. But numbers mean nothing without courage. And nothing without purpose. She paused, letting her words reach every ship in the formation. We fight today not for conquest or glory, Lisa continued. We fight to protect Earth and all the worlds that cannot protect themselves. We fight to prove that bullies and tyrants can be stopped by those brave enough to stand against them. And we fight to show the galaxy that freedom is worth defending at any cost. To the human ships who have trained for this moment across 50 years, trust your preparation and trust each other, Lisa said. To our allies who have never faced combat, stay in formation. Follow your assigned human coordinators. And remember that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. She closed the general channel and opened a private line to the flagship of the Pelorian contingent, Captain Mila. Lisa said to the plant-based officer who commanded 20 Pelorian defense ships, Are your people ready? We will follow you into the fire, Admiral Hayes, Mila replied, her voice showing both determination and nervousness. You saved my world. The least I can do is help save yours. Similar conversations happened across the fleet as human coordinators checked in with their allied counterparts, offering last-minute advice and encouragement. 2 hours passed with agonizing slowness. And then the sensors detected the Ravager Armada dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the System 5,000 warships materialized in perfect formation. So many vessels that they blocked out the stars behind them. Supreme Ravager Thane stood on his command ship and studied the defensive formation, waiting for him in the debris field. They have allies, his tactical officer reported with surprise. Scan shows 700 total ships, 300 human vessels, and 400 from various minor species. Still outnumbered 7-1, Thane said with satisfaction. They think their clever defensive position will save them. Push through with full force and crush them. I want every ship destroyed and Earth defenseless before the day ends. The Ravager Armada began its advance, moving in waves designed to overwhelm the defenders through sheer weight of numbers. Lisa watched them come and waited until they entered the outer edge of the debris field before giving her order. All ships, weapons free, execute Battle Plan Omega. The debris field that had appeared natural was actually full of hidden weapons platforms that human engineers had been placing. For the past 2 days, as the first wave of Ravager ships pushed through the gaps in the debris, thousands of automated weapons activated and opened. Fire kinetic rounds and missile salvos erupted from hiding places among the asteroids, catching the Ravagers in overlapping fields of fire that turned the gaps into killing zones. Hundreds of Ravager ships exploded in the first 30 seconds as they flew directly into the trap. All human ships, engage at will, Lisa commanded. Allied vessels, provide covering fire as assigned. The human fleet surged forward from their concealed positions behind larger debris, their weapons already firing as they closed with the confused Ravagers. Thane watched in fury as his carefully organized formation dissolved into chaos, with ships trying to avoid the hidden weapons while human warships attacked from unexpected angles. How did they hide so many platforms? His tactical officer asked desperately. It does not matter, Thane snarled. We still have the numbers. All ships press forward, overwhelm their defenses through sheer mass. But the Ravagers discovered that overwhelming the human defenses was easier commanded than accomplished. Every time they pushed through a gap in the debris field, They lost dozens of ships to the weapons platforms every time they engaged a human warship directly. They found their energy weapons ineffective against human shields, while human kinetic rounds tore through their hulls, and every time they tried to board a human vessel, they found Marines waiting with weapons designed specifically for close-quarters combat. The battle raged for hours, turning the debris field into a graveyard of destroyed ships from both sides. Lisa watched her tactical display with grim focus as the casualty. Reports came in the Allied ships were taking heavy losses despite their best efforts, and even the human fleet was being worn down by the endless waves of Ravagers. Admiral, we have lost 83 Allied vessels, Jake reported, and 17 human ships are badly damaged. We cannot sustain these losses much longer. Lisa was about to respond when new contacts appeared on the edge of the system. Dozens of ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel behind the Ravager position. Unknown vessels entering the battle space, Jake said with confusion. Then his voice changed to shock. Admiral, those are Galactic Council ships. Chairman Velker's personal fleet just arrived. Thane saw the Council ships appear and felt cold dread in his chest because he suddenly understood that the battle was lost. The Council fleet numbered 800 warships, all fresh and undamaged, positioning themselves to catch the Ravagers between two Forza Velkers. Voice broadcast across all frequencies. This is Chairman Velker of the Galactic Council Supreme Ravager Thane. You are hereby ordered to retreat immediately or face the combined might of the Council and humanity. Thane looked at his tactical display and saw the trap close around him. Nearly 2,000 enemy ships surrounding what remained of his armada. How many ships do we have left? He asked quietly. Less than 2,000, his tactical officer replied. We have lost more than half the armada. For the first time in Ravager history, a supreme leader ordered a full retreat. All ships withdraw immediately, Thane commanded. Return to home space and do not engage Earth again. They have won. The surviving Ravager ships broke formation and fled toward the edge of the system, jumping to faster than light. As soon as they cleared the debris field, Lisa watched them go and felt exhaustion wash over her. Damage report, she ordered. 97 human ships remain operational, Jake said, his voice heavy with the cost of victory. We lost 203 vessels and more than 50,000 crew members. The Allied fleet lost 247 ships. The price had been terrible. But Earth was safe. Velker's ship moved closer to the Defiance and requested a direct communication with Lisa. Admiral Hayes, the chairman said when the channel opened. I must admit I did not expect to be helping humanity today. Then why did you come? Lisa asked. Because I watched the footage from Peloria again and again, Velker replied. And I realized something important when you revealed your hidden fleet. You did not use it to attack the Council or demand concessions. You used it to save people who could not save themselves. That is not the action of a species seeking dominance, but of a species that genuinely wants to protect. He paused and then continued. The Council has debated your deception for days. But ultimately, we decided that a species willing to stand alone against impossible odds is a species worth standing beside. We may not trust you completely, but we respect you enough to fight with you. Lisa felt something loosen in her chest at those words. Thank you, Chairman, she said simply. Back on Earth, President Nicole Campbell watched the battle reports come in and felt tears running down her face. The fleet was returning home. Battered and bloodied, but victorious Earth had paid a terrible price for its survival. But it had proven something more valuable than any military victory. It had proven that courage and principle could triumph over raw power. Ambassador Kevin Morris stood alone in the Galactic Council chamber 3 days later. But this time, his seat was not isolated at the edge, but positioned at the center of the Council's main table. Velker approached him privately. After the session ended, and asked the question that everyone wanted. Answered, "Why did you wait so long, Ambassador?" Vulcar asked, "If you had this power all along, why endure a century of insults and dismissal?" Kevin looked at the reptilian chairman and gave the only answer that mattered, "Because we hoped we would never need to use it." Kevin replied, "We did not build that fleet to conquer or to dominate. We built it so that when the galaxy needed defenders, we would be ready. You called us cowards for 100 years.